Hello again to this special On Cue Neighbors program where we introduce you to businesses in our region and folks who are doing interesting things. One of those today I'd like to introduce you to is Jennifer Gumbel, a
Okay.
local attorney, and also, by the way, a member of our board of directors here at KSMQ. But she is has a very interesting niche in the law world in that she gets to work with a lot of families who are putting together like wills and estate planning.
hmm
A lot of personal involvement with folks. Jennifer, welcome. And how did you get involved and interested in this kind of work?
Oh, first of all, I hate death. And I really enjoy getting the planning to a place where the legal to-do list that people have after they lose a loved one is reduced. And that's what's really nice about estate planning is you're trying to minimize a to-do list for someone who's going to be grieving you at some point.
And you don't want to wait, I would think, until you are distraught. This is the difficult
Right.
part that families have because you're
Yeah.
under stress at that point. You might not be thinking all that clearly, and you have to make decisions, or you died, and now
Mhm.
all of the loved ones have to do it.
Right, right. So I think we're kind of confronted right now with the reality that we don't get to control the final chapters of our situation, and I think we like to think that we're going to live until we're 80 and we're going to have far long after we've come to terms with our mortality, and frankly, most of us won't get that. And we're all kind of confronted. It's a reality that it's tougher to ignore right now. So it's really good to just look at this as part of your just organization as part of being an adult. And it's something every adult should do at different stages of life. It's going to look different, but it's just something an adult should do with their affairs, so that if and when something does happen, then things are in place or things are moving as efficiently as they can.
Is there a way to start? Because it sounds daunting for
Yes.
somebody like me. I mean, are there baby steps that folks watching this can take to start that process?
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
uh, without doing everything, I'm afraid to do everything. What should they think about to start out with?
Okay, so the first two things, and I would recommend people just even this weekend. These are steps that you can take this weekend, even with shelter in place rules and all of that. Is to understand what you own. So pull out life policy, deeds to real estate you own, bank information for where you bank. Pull those out and put those together in a spot. And what you're going to eventually want to do, because part of a good estate plan, it takes really good documents and it takes financial, and you can start to do that financial organization. So just kind of start to understand what you own and gather the documentation. And then something else with our current situation that I think is really important is if you've never done a healthcare directive or an advanced directive, this is the document that deals with medical issues and tells your medical provider who to listen to and what decisions you want. If you've never done that, most of us, here in Mayo Country, where we go to Austin Medical Center or Mayo in Rochester or some other providers in our area, they really do want us to fill these out. They don't want to guess, and they don't. If they're supposed to stop, they can't make that decision on their own to stop. They need to be told to stop. And so if you don't want them to take certain steps, they want to hear from you. And so this weekend, what I would encourage everyone to do is just look around their provider's website. Particularly, I know Minnesotans, we're lucky enough because if we doctor at Mayo or Olmsted Medical Center or some of our regional providers, they're all based in Minnesota. And so their documents meet some of those Minnesota requirements. There's a lot you can find online, but not all of them are going to be hitting the legal hoops that we're looking for in our state. But the medical providers are good places to start.
So that's great information. And two things, folks. So there's two things. What do you own? Make a list of it. And what to do with medical care. Who's in charge? Which person? And then I guess you would tell that person in advance, hey, you are in charge of my medical. Is that what's called a power of attorney?
That's a little bit different. So, and some of these terms kind of overlap with each other, so it gets super confusing. Advanced directives in other states are called living wills, which is very confusing. But your healthcare agent is sometimes called a healthcare power of attorney. But in Minnesota, a power of attorney is a document usually that's referring to financial issues, and it's separate from a healthcare directive. It can be very confusing. And once you start to do these things to kind of start dipping your feet in the water, then what I would encourage people to do is, if you've never done an estate plan, call an attorney in your area. End of life legal issues are one of the what's the term that we have here in Minnesota, where it's an essential function, which I was really happy to see. And end of life planning is something anyone can do at any stage of their life. Again, particularly now, we can't ignore the fact that we don't have guarantees.
You've really broken this out into a kind of a series or a bunch of services that you have called an organized afterlife. Mm-hmm. And what's the purpose of that name and that group that you're putting together?
Yeah, so I'm in private practice here in Austin with the Hoverston Law Office, and again, I would encourage people, once they do that organizational stuff, to reach out to your local attorney's office, and we're answering phones and doing what we can to meet those needs. And what I've set up outside of that is just a place that has some good, easily understandable information, because what is online can be very overwhelming and not have great context. And I run into clients in my practice all the time who have done some research online, and it really kind of messes their understanding up, sometimes more than anything else. And so what I've tried to do with my website and Organized Afterlife is just give some very easily understandable, very basic understandings of how this stuff works, so that they can effectively partner with the attorney who can help create the plan, get really good documents in place, but then the individual can do the organization that backs up that plan.
And I've seen it on Facebook. You have a website?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and organizedafterlife.com. And then at Facebook, there's a Facebook group that's punctuation is always fun, but it's an Organized Afterlife, and afterlife is 2 words. And if you just start punching that in, that should pop up on Facebook. And then I'm in private practice here for clients in Minnesota over at the Hoverston Law Firm here in Austin, that you can, we're pretty easy to find for Malheur County residents.
Wonderful. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for taking time out to help us meet one of our neighbors. So.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you much, Jennifer Gumbel, Hoverston Law Office, and an Organized Afterlife.
Yep.
For now, I'm Eric Olson, KSMQ. See you all next time.